Hey guys, how's it going? This is going to be the first C++ example for a tutorial for beginners. I know there's a lot out there, but when I started there was none, and even now I was looking, there's just not that many out there that really explain what's going on enough for beginners to know what's going on. So let's get started with a simple Hello World project. I like to think that's like a tradition, first program you write whenever you learn a new language. So let's get started. You'll see that I have Visual Studio 2010. You don't have to have this. I just like to use it for my stuff. But this isn't free. I believe there's a free version, Visual Studio 2010 Express. You can probably find on just by Googling it. I know there's some other good compilers out there and IDEs such as Dev C++ or anything else you guys can find. So let's just start a very simple solution. So if you have a file new, or you just click the new project, anytime, there we go. So in here we've got some different templates, Visual C++, console application, which is what we want, something very basic. So down here, just enter the name of the solution, or this is the name of the project. We'll call Hello World. So you'll notice down here that the solution name is the same. Basically, you have a solution which can have multiple projects that can work together for one cause. So you browse where you want it. I've got my spot, and just hit OK. Now, it's a very important screen if you're using this. If you're using Visual Studios, anyways. This is the overview part. Not very much there, but in the application settings, or by hitting next, come to this screen here. A very important piece is that you hit empty project. If you don't, Visual Studios will create a whole bunch of files and text that you don't need and quite frankly are really hard to use. I also noticed that the console application is already selected for us because we selected that in the last window. You can change it, but for this, we're just doing console. So to hit finish. Here's acting up today. Yep, that was my IntelliSense isn't going to work, but that's not a big issue. So, it's a very blank screen here we got, and nothing to it. You'll notice that there's a Solution Explorer, which might come up on the right side, but for me I have on the left. And here you have your solution, Hello World, your project, Hello World, which you can open and see all your folders. Now we're going to add a file, which is going to get, I know it's going to get added to source files, but you can add stuff to other ones too. We're not going to do that, just source. If you go to actual project, right click and add a new item, you'll get this fancy window. Now, there's a lot of stuff here, but we just want a CPP file, a very basic file. It's basically a C++ file where we're going to put all of our source code. So we're going to call it Hello World for name. Now, you don't have to put .cpp. If you have it selected, it should pick it up, but just be careful. I usually like to type in what I want and have it selected. So just add. So there's our CPP file. We go Solution Explorer, like I said, it's now in the source file. So let's go over here. So very basic blank screen. If you just want to follow what I'm doing here for a second, and I'll explain stuff. We want to include some libraries. Now, when you include in this way, that's a library, like I said, it gives you some functions and some applications that you could use for your program. I/O stream is an input-output stream, so it allows you to write stuff to the screen and take input in. We're going to use the namespace, using namespace, std, which is the standard input space, which basically just makes it a lot easier for us to use this I/O stream. So now we need to create a function called main. Now, the main function, you need to have at least one in a project Basically, when your compiler starts to run your code, it looks for this main just as a starting point for your project. Now, since it's an integer, as you can notice here, or I guess you may not know what that means, but basically a function this is the name of the function, this is anything that would go into the function that the function might need to use, and this is what it has to return. So at the end of our function, you have to return a number. Usually 0 is a good number to use to indicate that nothing has gone wrong and that your function has finished properly. You can also use void instead and not have a return. Either or works, but I like doing this one. Just for down the road, if I ever do some other stuff, I can return a 1 if something broke. So, we're going to do hello world, so it's just going to say hello world. So to do that, you need to use cout. Now this means console out, which is basically what it sounds like. We're writing words to the console. And this double chevron, which is I'll explain later. And then in a string, using the quotation marks, anything inside the quotation marks is a string. Say hello world. I keep doing it. So our console is going to output hello world. Now the direction is very important. If you look at it, it kind of looks like two mouths, like your console is saying hello world. So to end a line is a semicolon. This basically tells your compiler, I'm done with this line, we're moving on to something different now. It's kind of important. I'll explain things in a minute. I didn't explain the last line, but just give me a minute. So if we just save this and run it, you can click on this button to start debugging. Just F5 is if you're using Visual Studio. So if I do that, it starts doing some compile stuff. And eventually changes some things up here. As you'll notice, a window will pop up and it goes away. It's kind of annoying. So if you go to debug, you can start without debugging, which is basically just a run. Just Control F5, which is a little bit nicer, and I'll show you why. Because it stays on the screen. It adds this system pause so you can see what's on your screen. So as you can see, it says hello world, but it also says press NET to continue. And it's all on one line, kind of annoying. So I'll show you how to move that away. You erase the semicolon, and another double chevron, and then end L, which basically means end line, which is a new line and carriage return. So your cursor will go down and then back over before it starts writing anything else. Again, the arrow is pointing in the similar direction as the other one, indicating that you're adding to this console output at one time. So I'm going to Control F5 to run this. And now we've got it saying hello world, and then the hello key, the press any key to continue underneath. A little bit easier to read. So hit OK. So like I was saying, this semicolon ends a line. You'll notice we use it here, here, and here, but not anywhere else. The reason for that is a function is depicted by these brackets. So we say I have a function. It's giving me an integer. It's called main. It has no parameters, which we'll get to later. And we're going to begin the block of code right here and end it here. It doesn't need a semicolon. In fact, you'll probably scream about it. Not right now because my television's broken. But if you save and run this one, no screaming. That's probably because it knows that this is the end of a function and it's trying to see what's there and then just ending that by anyways. But it's not needed. Also notice that we use it at the end of the namespace declaration, but not here. The include statements always have these chevrons, or actually, we'll just use the chevrons, so that it knows for that line that when it's done, this last chevron, this little triangle here, then it no longer needs to do anything for that line. It's pretty basic, and we'll probably cover some more in the next video. Thank you for watching.